Chapter 1. The Unseen Encounter. Life, for me, had always been about routine. There were no surprises, no twists, just the comforting monotony of predictable days, one after the other. I lived in a quiet town nestled at the edge of an ancient forest, far away from the frenetic energy of big cities, where the air smelled fresh, the people were friendly, and the pace of life was slow, almost intentionally so. I had found peace in that slowness, a kind of refuge from the chaos that seemed to characterize the rest of the world. It was the kind of life I had chosen for myself, a life of solitude, filled with the hum of machines and the comfort of simplicity. Most people thought I was a bit eccentric, working as a mechanic in a small, nondescript workshop tucked behind a row of aging houses. But I didn't mind. I found contentment in fixing things, in putting broken things back together. My job was simple. Fix whatever came through the door, whether it was an old tractor, a broken-down car, or a malfunctioning appliance, and then move on to the next one. Every day was the same, and honestly, I liked it that way. The shop was my domain, a small, cramped space filled with tools, parts, and grease-stained surfaces. It wasn't glamorous, not by any stretch of the imagination, but it was mine, and I was good at what I did. I didn't mind the quiet hours spent alone with my thoughts as I worked. I'd often lose myself in the rhythmic sound of a wrench tightening a bolt or the whir of an old engine turning over, my mind wandering to thoughts of things I had no time for. I didn't know it then, but those quiet moments were about to be interrupted, not by the usual distractions of customers or broken machines, but by something that would shatter everything I knew and plunge me into a world I wasn't prepared for. It all began on a night like any other. I had just finished the last job of the day, a fairly routine brake repair on a local farmer's truck, and was cleaning up the tools in the shop when I first noticed something strange. The lights in the shop flickered momentarily, a brief and unexplainable disturbance, but it was enough to catch my attention. At first, I thought it was the old wiring in the building, a relic of its age that had never been upgraded since its construction decades ago. But the flickering was more erratic than I had ever seen, and before I could investigate further, a low hum filled the air, a sound so subtle at first that it barely registered, like the distant murmur of a windstorm far on the horizon. It wasn't quite mechanical, and it certainly wasn't natural. It was a vibration, a frequency that resonated in the pit of my stomach, and for a split second, I found myself standing completely still, unsure of what to do. The sound intensified, almost like a deep, undulating pulse, growing louder, more urgent. I froze for a moment, my senses heightened, trying to pinpoint the source of the noise. The shop felt suddenly too small, too confining, as if the walls were closing in. It wasn't just the hum that made my skin prickle with unease. There was a strange pressure in the air, a subtle distortion that I couldn't place. My breath caught in my throat as I instinctively looked toward the windows of the shop, half expecting to see something outside, something large, ominous, or impossible hovering in the sky. But when I glanced out into the darkened night, all I saw were the usual trees and the faint outline of the gravel driveway leading out of the yard. The stars above were clear, shining down like pinpricks of light in the vast, cold expanse of space, and there was nothing that seemed out of place. But the hum remained, now unmistakably present, vibrating through the floor beneath my feet. I couldn't deny it any longer. There was something out there, and it was getting closer. I didn't know what made me step outside. Maybe it was the instinctive urge to seek the source of the disturbance, or maybe it was a curiosity I hadn't indulged in for years. Either way, I found myself walking toward the back of the shop, where the trees grew thick and the darkness seemed to swallow everything. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't what I found. The ground beneath my boots shifted as I stepped carefully around the side of the building, the night air cold against my face. That's when I saw it, a light, faint at first, flickering like a distant star, just above the tree line. It wasn't the soft, steady glow of a campfire or the steady beam of a distant street lamp. No, this light was pulsating, erratic, like a heartbeat coming from deep within the earth itself. It wasn't until I moved closer that I realized the light was coming from something far larger, something unnatural. I could feel it in my bones, a presence that sent a jolt of electricity through my chest, making my heart race. The hum grew louder still, vibrating against the air itself, as if it was pushing against me, forcing me to take a step closer. And then, there it was, the source of it all. In the clearing just beyond the edge of the trees, suspended in midair, was a craft unlike anything I had ever seen. It was large, though its exact shape was difficult to make out against the backdrop of the forest and the night sky. It hovered silently, with a soft, shimmering light that seemed to pulse from the craft's surface. The craft itself was smooth, metallic, its surface covered in patterns I couldn't comprehend. It was sleek, aerodynamic, and had an alien, almost fluid-like design that made it look like something out of a science fiction novel. I blinked, thinking that perhaps I had finally lost my mind. But no, the craft was real, and it was here, right in front of me. I stood frozen in awe, watching as the light began to intensify, casting strange shadows across the forest floor. My mind raced as I struggled to grasp what I was seeing. Was this a government experiment? Some kind of new technology? But nothing in the world could account for this. This was something far beyond my comprehension. And then, out of the craft, came two figures, two beings, walking toward me as if they had always been there. They were unlike anything I had seen in my life. Tall and graceful, their skin shimmered with a strange, iridescent glow, the colors shifting as they moved. They had long, flowing hair that seemed to defy the laws of gravity, rising and falling like waves in a windless sea. Their faces were delicate but sharp, almost symmetrical in their beauty, and their eyes, glowing with a soft, golden hue, focused on me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, as the two alien figures stood before me. One was a bit taller, with sharp features and a regal presence, while the other was slightly shorter but seemed to exude an aura of warmth, their presence soft but still formidable. They were twins. I knew that much instinctively, as if something deep within me recognized the bond they shared. Who are you?" My voice cracked as the words escaped my lips, though I had no idea what I was expecting. The twins did not answer immediately, their eyes scanning me, analyzing me with a depth I couldn't comprehend. And then, as if they had made up their minds, the taller twin stepped forward, his voice smooth and melodic, carrying a weight that seemed to reverberate with the hum in the air around us. "We are Kenner and Lyra," the taller twin said, his voice deep and commanding. "We have been sent to you." I took an instinctive step back, confusion flooding my mind. "Sent to me? Why?" "Because you are the one," the twin named Lyra spoke, her voice like a breeze in a summer night, soft but powerful. "You are the one who will help us, and in doing so, help save us all." I opened my mouth to respond, but the words stuck in my throat. Help them? What did they mean? My mind reeled with questions that couldn't find answers. But I knew one thing for certain. Nothing about my life would ever be the same again. The quiet, simple existence I had built was no longer mine to control. The twins had entered my life, and with them, they had brought something far greater than I could ever have imagined. The twins, Kenner and Lyra, stood before me, their otherworldly presence almost too much to grasp. I found myself trying to make sense of their words, but the more I thought, the less it seemed to make sense. They were here, standing in front of me, and it felt like the very air around us was charged with something indescribable, something deep and ancient, a presence that filled the space, making everything else feel insignificant. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my palms starting to sweat as the reality of the situation began to sink in. These weren't just visitors from another world. They were powerful, purposeful, and they had come to me for what, exactly? And why me, of all people? I was just a mechanic in a sleepy town, a nobody. My life had been quiet, peaceful even, and now, just like that, everything had changed. What do you mean, help us?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, unsure if I even wanted to know the answer. The words felt heavy on my tongue, as if asking them would pull me further into something I couldn't possibly understand. Kenner, the taller of the two, took a step forward, his gaze steady but kind, and for a moment, I swore I could see something flicker behind his golden eyes. Deep sadness, or perhaps a burden too great to carry alone. "The galaxy is at war," Kenner began, his voice calm but edged with an urgency that I hadn't noticed before. "A war that has been brewing for centuries, hidden beneath the surface. And now, it threatens to destroy everything." Lyra, standing slightly behind him, added softly, her voice laced with a quiet determination. We are the last of our kind. Our people, the Rian, were once rulers of this corner of the galaxy. But the war, the chaos, it's taken everything from us. We are the only survivors. And we need help. I shook my head slowly, my mind struggling to process their words. You need help? I echoed. Why would you come to me? I'm just a mechanic. Kinner's gaze softened as he took another step forward, his presence still looming, but somehow not threatening. It is because of who you are, not what you think you are. You are someone with the skills we need, someone with the potential to help us rebuild. You've already proven yourself capable in ways you don't yet understand. I blinked, taken aback. Rebuild? What do you mean? Everything has a purpose. Lyra spoke this time, her eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight as her voice resonated like a soft wind through the trees. Your skills are more than just mechanical. You have the ability to fix things that are broken, to see potential where others see only failure. This ship, the one you've been living with, the Vanguard, as we call it, is a weapon. But it is in ruins. We need someone who can repair it. You, Jace, are the one who can help us bring it back to life. I stared at them in disbelief, not sure whether I was hallucinating or caught up in some elaborate prank. But the way they looked at me, the way they spoke, told me that this wasn't a joke. Their eyes, filled with sorrow and hope, showed me that their words were genuine. And in that moment, a deep, unshakable feeling settled in my chest. This ship, a weapon? I whispered. My hands instinctively ran over the wrench in my pocket, the tool I had carried for years. How can I possibly fix something like that? Kinner stepped closer, reaching out and placing a hand gently on my shoulder. I flinched slightly at the touch, but it was warm, comforting, almost reassuring. You don't have to understand everything now. We are not just asking for your help, we are offering you a chance to change everything. You can be part of something far bigger than yourself. Lyra nodded, her voice calm and earnest. The Vanguard is more than a ship. It is the key to saving not just our people, but the balance of the galaxy itself. The Rian race once held power beyond measure, and with it came responsibility. The war has scattered our forces, and the factions that remain are no better than the pirates you fought before. But the Vanguard holds a secret, a power that we cannot unlock alone. You are the missing piece. I found myself at a loss for words. I wasn't sure what to say. Fixing machines, fine. But this was something else entirely. The weight of their request hit me like a freight train. I was being asked to rebuild a warship, to revive a legacy that had been buried for centuries, and all because I was good with my hands. My world, my quiet, solitary existence, was no longer mine. They had shattered it, but strangely, I didn't want it back. Not after seeing them, hearing their story. There was something about their presence, something that felt right, like I had been waiting for this moment my whole life. And then it hit me, if the Vanguard was truly a weapon, a relic from a long-lost empire, it was likely that someone else had already noticed its existence. Someone far more dangerous than I could imagine. What if they were after it too? I cleared my throat, forcing myself to focus on the present, to focus on them. If I agree, how do I even begin? Lyra's eyes softened as she stepped forward. We will guide you. We have the knowledge, but you have the skills. Together, we can rebuild it, piece by piece. And once it is whole, we will fight back. Kinner nodded, his gaze unwavering. You may be a mechanic now, Jace, but you are about to become something much greater. A protector, a leader. You will help us find our place in this galaxy once again. And that was when I realized their world, their survival, and now mine were all tied together. There was no turning back. The Vanguard was out there, waiting to be fixed, waiting to be reborn. Chapter 2, The Awakening of the Vanguard. I stood there, staring at the two alien beings before me, trying to wrap my mind around everything they had just said. The weight of it all felt like it was crashing down on me, making my limbs feel heavy. The Vanguard, an ancient Rian warship, had been dormant for centuries. And now, for reasons I couldn't yet understand, it had been left to me, to a simple mechanic, to fix. I didn't know how I could possibly begin, but the very idea of what was at stake, what they were asking me to do, stirred something deep inside. Maybe it was their desperate hope, or maybe it was the promise of something beyond my simple, quiet life. Either way, there was no backing down now. I could see in their eyes that they weren't just asking for help, they were putting their trust in me. The future of their species, the galaxy itself, rested in my hands. It was too big, too grand to turn away from. "We'll help you," Lyra said, breaking the silence, her voice as soft as the wind but imbued with a quiet strength. "The Vanguard is not like any ship you've worked on before. It's not just about fixing engines or wiring. It's about unlocking the secrets within it. There's an energy inside the ship, an ancient technology that can only be accessed by someone unique." Her words hung in the air, as cryptic as they were heavy with implication. I didn't know what she meant by unique, but the urgency in her voice made me realize I would have to find out. Kenner moved to stand beside me, his piercing gaze never leaving mine. "The Vanguard was built as the heart of the Rian Empire. It is not just a warship. It holds the keys to something far greater than warfare. There are relics, ancient devices that can alter the course of history. We need you to help us awaken it." I nodded slowly, still processing their words. "I'll do whatever it takes to fix it, but I need to see the ship. I need to understand what we're working with." Lyra's face softened, and she stepped forward, placing a hand gently on my arm. "You will. We will guide you every step of the way. But remember, Jace, this ship is not just about repair. It's about revival. You are about to unlock something that has been dormant for millennia." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Let's get to work then." The journey to the Vanguard was uneventful, yet unsettling. The twins led me to a hidden hangar tucked deep within the forest, one that I had never seen before. A part of me had always assumed that the forest surrounding the shop was just that forest. But hidden beneath the overgrown trees and ancient foliage was a technology far more advanced than anything I had ever laid eyes on. The ship itself lay beneath a canopy of trees, cloaked from the skies above by a sophisticated shield, a technology that even I could barely comprehend. As we approached the hangar, I felt an uneasy sense of awe wash over me. There, illuminated by a beam of light, stood the Vanguard. The ship wasn't like anything I had ever seen. It had a sleek, organic design, its contours flowing like liquid metal, a fluidity to its shape that made it look alive. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns, shimmering with a faint iridescence, as though the ship itself was breathing in sync with the rhythm of the universe. It was as though it had grown from the earth itself, born not of machines, but of a living substance far beyond human understanding. I stood frozen, unable to take my eyes off the ship. It looked so alien, so far beyond the realms of anything I had ever imagined. And yet, somehow, it felt like it belonged here, in this forest, among the trees. Like it had always been a part of this world, waiting for the right moment to awaken. "This is it," Lyra said quietly, breaking my trance. "The Vanguard, and it is waiting for you." I hesitated for a moment, unsure of where to even begin. The ship was so complex, so foreign, that the thought of fixing it seemed impossible. How could I, a simple mechanic, restore something that ancient, something that beyond anything I had ever encountered? Kenner seemed to sense my uncertainty. "It's not just a matter of tools and skills," he said. "This ship responds to you, Jace. It has chosen you. The bond between you and the Vanguard is what will awaken it. The ship is waiting for you to bring it to life. All it needs is the right catalyst." I felt a shiver run down my spine. "A catalyst?" I repeated. "What does that mean?" Lyra stepped forward and gestured to the ship's hull. "It means the ship needs more than just physical repair. It needs someone who can understand its language, someone who can unlock its potential. And that is you." I looked at the ship once more, doubt creeping into my mind. Could I really do this? Could I really bring a dormant warship, an ancient artifact of a long-dead empire, back to life? What did I have that could possibly awaken it? Before I could voice my doubts, the ship did something that shook me to my core. The surface of the Vanguard shimmered, the intricate patterns across its hull pulsing with soft light. The ship hummed faintly, almost as if it were alive, as if it was breathing. Slowly, the ship's main hatch opened, the massive doors parting with a low, resonant sound. Kenner and Lyra shared a look, a silent understanding passing between them. "It's calling to you," Lyra said softly. "Now, you must answer." I swallowed, feeling an overwhelming mixture of fear and excitement. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for, even if I hadn't known it at the time. I took a step toward the ship, and as my foot touched the ground beneath the Vanguard, I felt it. The ship's pulse resonated within me, a faint vibration in the air that seemed to match the beating of my heart. The moment I stepped aboard, the ship's lights flared brighter, and the walls began to hum with life. The engines, once silent, rumbled faintly, and I could feel the power stirring deep within the heart of the ship. My body responded to it, the very air around me seeming to vibrate with energy. For the first time, I understood what Kenner meant. This wasn't just about fixing machines. This was about awakening something ancient and powerful. The Vanguard was no mere ship, it was alive, and it was reaching out to me. Chapter 3. The Heart of the Vanguard. The moment I stepped aboard the Vanguard, a rush of energy surged through me, and for a split second, I thought I might collapse under its weight. It wasn't just the hum of the ship's machinery, it was something deeper, something ancient, resonating in the very fabric of the ship. As the massive doors behind me sealed shut, I felt a quiet sense of connection to the ship, something that went beyond mechanical repair or even the understanding of its technology. It was as though I had stepped into the heart of something greater than myself, something vast and unknowable. I was standing in what could only be described as the main command center, though it was unlike any command center I had ever seen. The walls seemed to breathe, their surfaces shifting and rippling like liquid metal, pulsating with the rhythm of the ship. The air around me hummed with energy, and the floor beneath my feet was alive, thrumming in a way I could feel in my bones. The central console, however, was the most fascinating part. It was both organic and mechanical, with tendrils of bioluminescent material reaching out from the walls, curling into intricate patterns across the central platform. It wasn't a traditional control panel, it was a neural interface, one that responded to thought, to intention. Kenner and Lyra followed me onto the ship, their faces filled with anticipation. "It's alive," I muttered under my breath, almost not believing the words. The ship's energy was palpable, its presence undeniable. It wasn't just waiting for me, it was welcoming me. Lyra stepped beside me, her voice soft but filled with purpose. "The Vanguard has always been more than a machine. It is a living entity, a vessel forged from both technology and the Rian's ancient biology. It responds to its captain, and it has chosen you." I glanced at her, my heart pounding. "Chosen me? But I'm just a mechanic. I don't know how to command a ship like this. I don't even know where to begin." Kenner's golden eyes met mine, and for a moment, I could see the weight of the galaxy in them. "You don't need to know everything right away. The ship will guide you. But first, you need to connect with it to understand it as it understands you. Only then will you be able to awaken its true power." As I stood there, trying to absorb their words, the ship seemed to respond to my hesitation. The floor beneath me pulsed with a deeper rhythm, the walls around me shifting once more as if the Vanguard were alive, feeling my uncertainty. A soft light began to glow around the central console, and the bioluminescent tendrils extended outward, reaching toward me like they were beckoning me to take the first step. With no more hesitation, I stepped toward the console. My hand reached out, and as soon as my fingers brushed against the surface, the ship's hum deepened, and a sudden rush of information flooded my mind. It wasn't a flood of data, not in the traditional sense. It was more like an intuitive understanding, a knowing that bypassed language, a knowledge not learned but absorbed. The ship's history, its purpose, its inner workings, all of it flowed through me, and I felt a profound connection to the vessel, as though it had always been a part of me, just waiting to be awakened. The ship spoke not in words, but in sensations, in feelings. It was as though I could hear its thoughts, feel its pulse. And then, it became clear, the Vanguard was not just a weapon. It was a keeper of secrets, a relic of a time when the Rian had been a powerful force in the galaxy. It held the key to technologies that could alter the very fabric of reality itself: energy manipulation, time dilation, quantum gateway, secrets buried deep within its systems. It was a ship built for war, but it was also a ship built for something greater. And it had chosen me to unlock its potential. As I stood there, overwhelmed by the influx of information, I realized that this was no simple task. I wasn't just fixing a broken machine. I was unlocking the power of an ancient race, and with it, the power to change the fate of the galaxy itself. Lyra's voice cut through my thoughts, a gentle reminder. "You must learn to control it, Jace. The ship's energy is powerful, but it can be overwhelming. If you lose control, it could destroy everything." I nodded, my focus sharpening. There was no turning back now. The ship had awakened, and so had I. The Vanguard was mine, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. Chapter 4. The Legacy of the Vanguard. The next few weeks aboard the Vanguard were a blur. Every day, I unlocked more and more of the ship's capabilities, delving deeper into its secrets. I found myself becoming more attuned to the ship's presence, its energy, and its technology. It was as though the Vanguard and I were becoming one, each moment spent with it pushing me further into a new realm of understanding. Kinner and Lyra were by my side, offering guidance and insight into the Rian ways. They taught me not only how to manage the ship's power, but also how to connect with its deeper purpose. I began to realize that the Vanguard was more than a weapon. It was a vessel of hope, a symbol of resilience. The Rian had built it to protect the galaxy, to preserve life, to ensure balance. But over the years, as the war raged on and their empire crumbled, the ship had been abandoned, its true purpose forgotten. Now, it was up to me to awaken it, to use its power to fight the forces that threaten the galaxy's fragile peace. The Krith Alliance, the warlords, the pirates, they had no idea what was coming for them. The Vanguard wasn't just a ship. It was a force that could reshape the galaxy, and I, Jay Stroud, a mechanic turned commander, was its new captain. The Krith had made their move. They were coming for the ship, coming to reclaim it for their own dark purposes. But they would find, to their horror, that they had underestimated the Vanguard in me. I had the ship's power at my command, and I wasn't about to let it fall into the hands of anyone who would misuse it. The final battle came sooner than I expected. A fleet of Krith warships dropped out of hyperspace, heading straight for us. But we were ready. The Vanguard roared to life, its engines powering up to full capacity. The weapons systems, once dormant, came online, and the ship became a juggernaut of destruction. The Krith fleet didn't stand a chance. I stood on the bridge, watching the carnage unfold as the Vanguard cut through the Krith warships like they were made of paper. The ship's energy crackled in the air, its weapons tearing through the enemy fleet with devastating precision. For the first time, I felt the full weight of the ship's power. I wasn't just fixing it anymore. I was commanding it, wielding its might like a weapon forged for this very moment. When the last of the Krith ships exploded into space, their wreckage floating like shattered stars, I felt a strange sense of peace. The battle was over, but it was far from the end. The Vanguard had been reborn, and so had I. My life would never be the same again. I wasn't just a mechanic anymore. I was a protector, a leader, the captain of the Vanguard, and the galaxy would remember the name Jay Stroud. The Vanguard had awakened, and so had its legacy. And together, we would shape the future.